What's going on, guys? It's Elias. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in today. For today's video, I'm finally going to answer the question, how much has it cost to fix my Type R since I've crashed it? And now you've seen it on the road, you've seen me driving it, I have been driving it around. So I'm going to take you through the list of costs, I'm going to take you how I did it, and I'm going to let you know on some of the options and things that the decisions that I took in order to keep the price as controlled as possible. So let's go ahead, take a deep dive, and see how much this thing costs. So to refresh your memories here, I did crash the car on this side right here. Luckily, the hit was basically, imagine those three vents right there. That's where the wall hit. It completely tore off that fender right there, which if you take a look, the fender is extremely thin. I mean, it's like nothing there. So it just tore it off, and the real impact was the wheel. It exploded the wheel and sent it into the driver's compartments, which bent some things up that required some pulling, which was the bulk of the labor. It really wasn't as bad as most people thought it was. It wasn't the worst hit ever, so we were able to come back from it. Now, I've actually covered every step of my rebuild in a playlist. I've done videos on pretty much everything that I've done, every step of the way, everything that I had to do to fix this thing. I've documented, and I'll put it in a playlist. It's right up on the top corner and in the description as well. I've been documenting that since I started fixing it last summer. And actually, one of the best things that I did was I used my pickup truck to go to Canada, because I got basically all of my parts from Canada. Now, if you haven't been following along, it's likely because you're not subscribed to the channel. So make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. A staggering 95% of you guys watch the videos and don't subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it if you guys did. It helps me out a lot, and it tells me to go ahead and keep on making these videos. Otherwise, I mean, why am I really doing it, right? I do enjoy making the videos, I do enjoy interacting with you guys, but if you guys aren't subscribing, it must mean that either you don't like the channel, you don't like the videos, or something in between. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, and if you like the stuff you're seeing, please subscribe. So what did I get from Canada? I'll recap it for you here if you don't want to go back and watch those videos. I got the fender, I got the bumper, I got this whole bumper here. I did get a grill. I have replaced the grill since with an aftermarket grill. Totally recommend you do that. I made a video on why you should do that. But I did get the grill. The most expensive thing that I got, I think, was the steering box. Way down deep below. I didn't know if the steering box got hurt. I really didn't think so. I think the tie rod end for the steering rack was the thing that got broken. It was just completely broken off. But a guy from Canada had a parts car, a Type R, that he was no longer using. It was in black. Unfortunately, it wasn't championship whites. Otherwise, it would have been a little bit easier. No paint needed. But he was able to hook me up with all the body parts over here, including the door. So this door was actually black, came from a black Type R. If you remember, the door on my Type R was pretty crunched up right here, so we replaced the door as well, the whole entire door. We also replaced the hood right here. So this hood got hit and damaged right here. This had to be replaced, and this was also a black hood originally installed on another Type R. So in addition to all of those things, there's a lot of suspension parts. All of the suspension parts and the brake caliper that you see right there, those all came from this one parts car. And I was looking for parts. I was looking for all the things that I needed to do to make sure this car was put back together, and I chose to go to Canada. So why Canada? Well, the main reason I went to Canada is because, first, the guy was super nice. He messaged me on my YouTube channel. He wrote a comment down and said, hey, I may have some parts for you. I don't know if this is everything you need. And I told him to message me on my Instagram, and he did. And then we exchanged some emails, and it was basically everything I needed. Now, the best thing about this is that at the time, and I still think now, the exchange rates for Canada versus the US is very favorable. The US dollar is much stronger than the Canadian dollar, and I use that to my advantage. So while it may have cost $6,000 or $5,500 in Canadian dollars, it cost me, all of those parts cost me less than $4,000 US. And that includes the trip up and down, and it also includes the hotel fare that I paid. I include all of that in the price just to make sure I'm being fair and I wasn't miscounting. Let's not forget, there was a lot of of little details that I'm leaving out. I mean, the headlight, the fog lights, some connectors, some of the small little lights and wires and things like that. There's some rubber pieces. There's the fender liner. I mean, a whole bunch of little pieces here and there that I got off the same parts car for $4 grand. I got really lucky that I have fans like you guys, subscribers to the channel, that really appreciate what I do and are willing to help me out in my moment of need. Now, let's take a little trip back here, because I do have a whole bunch of extra parts back here that I may be selling off or I may be using. So obviously I didn't use all the parts that I got because, man, this was a treasure trove. I basically took everything that I could. And again, the guy was super nice and was willing to let go of pretty much everything he had. So this shock right here was from his Type R. My Type R is currently using my old shock. I wanted to see if it still worked, and it's perfectly fine. It works perfectly fine. I'm going to be replacing it anyway fairly soon with another coilover. But I have his shock right there. That's an electronic damper. That's fairly expensive. I was able to save some money there. I do have some of the suspension parts that are not broken or bent. I did try to save some of those. But one of the best parts I have here is the electronic steering rack. Now, this steering rack is very special, unique only to the Type R, because this actually has the 3 different modes: the Comfort, Sport, and the Plus R. This is the only steering rack that has the different steering modes and changes with the modes. So Type Rs have very expensive steering racks from Honda, and this was absolutely great and working. And I actually ended up using my original steering rack that came from my Type R. I wasn't sure if it broke or not. I wanted to test it. We left it on. Works perfectly well. So this one, known good electronic power steering rack. I'm going to sell that. I have some door panels and some other things that were okay, and some plastic bits that I'm also going to be letting go of. Anything that I can let go of and you guys are interested, let me know. I'll be sure to organize these things for you guys and put them in a box, and I'll be doing a massive sell-off very soon. In addition to that, I'm going to be stripping out the interior and selling those bits as well. Of course, it needs a cleaning, but that's okay. Right, so that was $4,000 for the parts. About, I'd say I can get $2,000 or $3,000 back from selling some of these parts, some of these used parts that I have. I have some fog lights, I have some headlights, I have other things that I can sell and make my money back. Let's head over to the interior, talk about that as well. Now, as you guys know, all of the airbags here actually blew. So there's airbag that goes there. You guys can see the tear there. My body shop actually did a great job in hiding as much as possible. This seat actually also has an airbag on that side. There's no way you can tell that an airbag ever went off on that one. Super cool that they did that. And again, this whole door, including the interior bit, was included from my Canadian parts car. It was awesome, awesome, awesome. So as you can tell here, I did not use any airbags. I did not buy any airbags. Airbags are very expensive. This airbag by itself, $400. That airbag, another $400. The airbag that goes in the seat, another $400. My seatbelt, that seatbelt right there, that actually has to be replaced, $300 because it's special red and Honda only makes it for the Type R. So all of these things would add up significantly. Instead of doing all that, I'm going to strip the interior, sell a bunch of these parts as well, and then cage the car. All right, let's talk about the labor. Right, so labor for these fixes, for these builds, can get quite expensive depending on what you ask for. A lot of shops would actually not fix my car because I wasn't going through insurance. I made a video on whether or not insurance covered my car. Needless to say, they did not, and I go over the specifics on why and how to get your car covered in case you go to the track. So I covered all those things in a separate video. I'm not going to go into detail here, but everything was out of pocket, and most shops actually these days don't like customers that fix cars out of pocket. There's many reasons for that. I mean, it's easier to deal with an insurance company that's able to cut checks for 10 grand quite easily when most customers don't have that kind of cash laying around. Luckily, I am an avid saver, so I did have a lot of cash and I was able to pay my way. Now, when I came to picking the right shop, I basically had to shop around, and I used my network of friends. I had a bunch of people from New York City, from New Jersey, from different areas, and I contacted them and said, hey, I'm looking for a shop. If you know someone, if you have a family member that owns a shop that can deal with me, let me know. And almost immediately, awesome guy, Xgram Life on Instagram, contacted me and said, hey, I know a shop that I work with a lot. Let's hook you up with them. And man, they were awesome, because I took my car over to them. I was almost desperate at this point to get this car fixed. I needed to figure out whether or not somebody was gonna do it before I started spending money on parts and things like that. Took it over to them and they said, yeah, we can do it, no problem. And it all depends on how good you want it. That's what the price is gonna depend on. That's a perfect answer. That's what you should do if you're fixing your car. So like I said, this was out of pocket, and I had to decide which direction to go to. Did I want this Type R to be another street car? Did I want to bring it back and do a daily driver with it? Did I want to bring it back as a race car? These are all decisions I had to make. And I think what pushed me over the edge to make this a full race car was, again, the fact that I wasn't going to buy these very expensive and extremely difficult to deal with airbags, because you have to install them all, and then you have to reset the system, maybe get a new computer for the SRS. A big pain in the butt I wasn't willing to deal with. Although the body shop said they would have taken care of all of that for me, no issues at all. I didn't want to go that route, because then I would have to make it pretty. And that's the second part of this. Labor was very inexpensive, because all I wanted was this car to be structurally sound. That's all I cared about. I didn't care about panel gaps. I didn't care about perfect paints. I didn't care about basically any of that stuff. And they asked me, I was like, well, what do you want? Do you want us to fix it perfectly? Do you want us not to take our time with it? What do you want? How much labor do you want us to spend on this car? I decided, let's do that race car build, which means let's do the right paints. I want the car to look okay on the outside, but let's not go crazy, right? Let's not do 3 or 4 layers of paint and sand things down and blending. I don't have time for that. They don't have time for that. I don't want to spend the money on that, because I'm likely going to put a race livery on this. I'm going to cover the car with a wrap, so paint is not really going to matter at that point. The other part of it is I really wanted them to concentrate on making sure that the structure was correct. As you remember, it was the wheel that hit where the driver footwell is, and that took the majority of the impact. It really wasn't as bad as I remembered, as I had thought it could have been. And they said, yeah, we'll just pull it with our chain machine. They had a laser alignment machine, which again was a big part of the labor costs. So they pulled it. They got everything back together. They put the carpets back on, all of the labor, all the paint. They actually had to paint it twice just to make sure the color was good, because they had to match the other side of the car, which is championship white. Championship white is not the easiest color to mix. Just letting you know, their body shop had a little bit of a problem making sure it was exactly right. Just because I didn't want the car to be perfect didn't mean I wanted a mismatched color car. I did not want that at all. So at the end of the day, all the labor, $3,000. $3,000 for all of that work, and honestly, they really did a good job. They even did an alignment, so that they put a full factory alignment back on. They actually even put the factory bolts back on to make sure everything was perfectly back as it's supposed to be. Very impressed with the shop. I'm actually going to take my Subaru over to that same shop to get rid of all of the rust. Can't wait to do that. Hopefully is happening very soon. So in case you didn't have your calculator handy, that's a total of $7,000, not counting yet the fact that I'm going to strip the interior and sell a whole bunch of parts from the inside, the seats, which probably cost around $1,500 for the pair, the carpets, there's some interior illumination parts. All these things I'm going to be taking out of the car and selling for whatever I can get for them. Nothing crazy, nothing expensive. I will be doing a video when I do that, so don't message me now for them, but let me know in the comments if you're interested. I'd like to know what other parts you'd like to get from me from my Type R. I would love to help you guys out. Right, so with that $7,000, the car is running, and it's running very well. What do you guys think of the cost? $7,000 minus whatever I get for all the extra parts that I have. Again, I think I got a great deal out of it. I think we're going to have some fun with this Type R. We're going to turn it into a full race car. I'm very excited about that. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you next time. Peace.